Now, out of all the cruisers that we have in the game, there are two cruisers that I rarely fly. That would be the Gila and the Chameleon, although these two ships are definitely very nice, very good. They have their own purpose. For example, the Chameleon did find its purpose in the Black Ops fleets, although I believe this thing can open the classic sign-off for capitals, but for the most part, I have seen the Chameleon being used for Black Ops fleet. It does have that Dragon Chant nanocore, or was it the other nanocore that pretty much unlocks your ship from the enemy locking systems, which is actually very good for a Sino ship if you want to survive the encounter. Now, when it comes to the stats, the Chameleon is a advanced cruiser, one of the recent ones. It's added in the same day. The Salos was added, and the rest of the special ships does have the same good old Gurista pirate bonus. In this case, for all the Gurista ships, you will get a bonus only on medium or large or small drones, depending on what ship you have. The medium-sized ships will have a bonus on medium drones, the Rattlesnake and Cobra will have a bonus on large drones, and the Worm will have a bonus on the small drones. Now, besides the other drone stuff, you do get a Ewar. Technically, you get Ewar abilities on this ship, and I like to say that the Chameleon is a product between a Gila and a Arby. It's a Gila Arby and a Blackbird, because you can use the tracking disruptor and the guidance disruptor. Now, obviously, this is going to be a shield tank ship. It is a Cloaky ship as well. Use drones and missiles. Primarily, it should be a drone DPS ship. And when it comes to the build, as you will see later on in this video, I think I might go with a more active tanky way for the Chameleon, although I might also go with a full DPS build. It really depends on how I want to fly this ship. There is one thing about this ship that I don't like though, and that would be the special module that you get, and that would be the sniping module. The same module found on the Anubis is also found on the Chameleon, and it's also found on the sniper cruisers. I was never a fan of the sniper mode on the cruisers, because on cruisers you kind of want mobility, you want speed, and the sniping module will practically make your ship very slow. And if you're slow in a cruiser nowadays, with all the nasty implants floating around, you will probably lose the ship. With a smaller ship, mobility is extremely important. For the larger ships, for the battleships, you know, they're already pretty big, and I can kind of get behind the sniping special module, but on the smaller ships I find that module a little bit weird. Although that's just me. There might be some use for it, but I personally don't like to use that module on the smaller, faster ships, especially when I can make them speedy, and I can also make them tanky in some cases, depending on the ship that is. I think the reason why I don't fly the Chameleon is probably the Stratius, or this is basically my go-to drone boat when it comes to cruisers. The Stratius or the Arby are the ships that I usually fly when it comes to drone boats. Very good ships. Well, I mean, the Chameleon is also good, but I personally prefer the Stratius. For what I do, the Stratius is simply a better choice, of course. But there's the debate, Chameleon versus Stratius. It comes down to the build, really. If the Chameleon is well tanked, the Chameleon will survive. If the Chameleon isn't well tanked, the Stratius will win. Of course, if a DPS Stratius fights a tanky Chameleon, the Stratius will probably lose, because you have to remember that the Chameleon can have some pretty scary resistance. This is one of the more tankier shield tank cruisers in the game. Has 25% bonus on all damage types if you have the skills maxed out pretty much.
Undocking.
Although the Stratius does have I would say the Stratos might have better DPS, and the Stratos seems to be obviously more sneaky and stealthy. So at the end of the day, it really depends on what you need to get out of it. I have 98,000 overall hit points, 14,000 in shield with my cheap build. You know, this is not bad. Although I would also say, for my standards, I wouldn't really say that this is good either. It's in between, you know. It's in between. If you want to make it tankier, you can easily do that with integrations. For tank, I would still recommend integrations if you want a tanky build. It can't go wrong, really. If there is one thing integrations are good for right now, and that is tank. That's basically my conclusion after integrating most of my tanky ships nowadays. Of course, if you don't want to integrate them, you can, but for the best tank performance, I would say integrations are the way to go. Of course, for DPS, for utility, there are uses for integrations as well, but for DPS I stopped using the integrations a long time ago. I just used the normal rigs. Now, you can technically fly the ship with the electronic warfare, if you want, of course. It can be a decent kiting ship. The Chameleon is surprisingly speedy. It can also be Cloaky. It really has a wide variety of usages, of builds that you can use on this thing. The Sino Chameleons are usually cloaked and tanky. If you want to fly this ship like the Gila, you can. It is not a mistake not to include a cover-top cloaking device on this ship. You can definitely include that if you want. In my case, I don't really know how to use this thing myself, because I already have other ships that fulfilled the role, and I think I talked about that even in some other videos in the past. It's just that I couldn't find the right place for this ship. I tried to find a purpose for the Chameleon, but I already have ships in its place that are getting the job done, and you know what they say, if something isn't broken, you don't need to fix it. Although I have this ship's been with me for ever since they have been launched. I used it to transport my revelation from system to system, using my alt. My alt was a Sino alt back in the day. I used it on my alt. So this ship does have some, I guess you can say, history. It helped me get my revelation out of the old low sec system, because I said that I'm not going to fly it anymore, and I stopped flying the revelation 2 years ago now. Now there is the build with a large capacity battery and large boosters. That's the build that I personally would go with the Chameleon and with the Gila. I know there's a Phantasm build that my friend used to have. Pretty much had the dual large boosters, and it was capacitor stable. It used missiles though, and that build was a specialized build. Forgot for what purpose though, but it was a specialized build for the Phantasm with missiles. I think I still have the Phantasm somewhere.
Undocking.
Or it could very well be in a different station, but I used to fly that ship. He also had a capacitor battery in decent resistances. That thing was interesting. I kind of wanted to do the same thing with the Chameleon, but I ran into powered problems. Even though I have pretty much maxed out skills for cruisers, or maybe I skipped a skill or two unknowingly, or I don't know, but I'm unable to replicate that build with the modules that I want. I want high tier modules and that built on this ship, just so I can max out the tank. I will have to revisit my skills. I don't remember if I didn't touch anything cruiser related. I never removed anything cruiser related. I don't know if the game I don't know if the game messed something up, or if they have nerfed something, but I will have to double check and see what went wrong and why I can't replicate that. But there are some of my ships seem broken for some reason. When I went in the ship, I wasn't able to pretty much get my old build up and running because I lack power grid for some odd reason, and that's a thing that I kind of need to investigate to see what went wrong. Especially with the Stratius, I used to be able to fit a micro warp drive. I used to be able to have a large rapid build with a micro warp drive on the Stratius, but now I can't do that anymore, even though my skills for cruisers just got better and better. But that's pretty weird, to say the least. Now obviously you should never armor tank a Chameleon, and you should definitely never use a large missile, any large missile on a Chameleon, because it doesn't have a bonus on them. This thing should be a medium missile build with drones being your primary DPS weapon type on the Chameleon. The Gurista pirate ships do have a missile bonus, but it's 80% drones, 20% missiles basically. So you have to focus on the drones. There was a time where Chameleons have been kind of a usually if you see a Chameleon back in the day, it was a very easy target because it had a very bad build. I personally encountered a lot of Chameleons back in the day that had a very bad build. That I think that's fixed now for the most part, but yeah, these ships didn't have good reputation when they have been originally launched because of the horrendous builds that you used to encounter on them. But that's 3 years ago now, so it was back then, but not anymore, I hope. And this would be a DPS build for the Chameleon. What I would do pretty much, I would slap a large shield generator, because it does have default resistance from the skills. You don't really need to use an adaptive. This combination would work really well. I actually do like this combination on the Chameleon, and I might actually use the ship in this way. Obviously I don't have DPS rigs right now, but if I were to go and slap DPS rigs, I think I can get some very interesting stats out of this ship. The only thing I don't really like is the fact that it doesn't have a reactivation. It's unable to immediately lock upon the cloaking like the Stratius, but if I go with the ship with this build, it's not going to have a cloaking device. It will be built in this way, like the Celos and like some of my other DPS cruisers. That's what I would do. And also you have 4 medium slots. 4 scanners are able to be equipped, or a scanner, depending on what you want to do with the ship.
Undocking.
Or a balanced build, or if you want to have a Cloaky hunting build, DPS build, just replace 1 drone damage amplifier with the cloaking device and you should be good to go. That should also work just fine. Obviously, with a DPS build, you need to be careful not to engage something very tanky, because if you engage something very tanky and if you are unable to speed tank, if you are unable to avoid getting hit, the tanky ship will win. That's the rock paper scissors gameplay that we have. So you need to pick your targets carefully. A tanky build can generally engage all the ships, although in some cases the tanky build will not be enough. In some cases the DPS build will actually be better, but that's completely random and it depends on what ships you encounter in space. Not bad overall tank. I'm personally happy with how it looks at the moment. So
Docking request
general,
accepted.
I think I mentioned this before as well, but I do like the Chameleon. It's just that I don't really have a purpose for it. Now with pretty much maxed out skills for drones, and I think for the most part, for most cruisers, with maxed out skills, I might use this ship a little bit more. Just out of curiosity, I might use it to go and hunt or similar. I mean, if I go hunting, I also go exploring, like I did with the Stratius Rome couple weeks ago. Basically, I equipped the ship for sights and I equipped the ship for combat, and I go and see what I can find. That's a thing that the Chameleon can't exactly do. Well, it can do, it can hunt, but you can't really do exploration. You can technically, but I wouldn't be doing exploration in a Chameleon. You can if you want, but it's not exactly the right ship for that purpose. Now a PvE build would kind of be wasted for this, but you know, I'll just attempt to see how it will work. For high sec, you can use the ships for high sec. However, I would say their potential is definitely better for low sec storyline missions. For low sec storyline missions, I would probably use a build for range, a speed build with DPS and range. You can easily get 80 plus kilometer, and it can be very fast as well with drones, or a 30-40 kilometer orbit with the long range medium missiles. It should work just fine. That's what I would do for low sec missions for the Chameleon. And well, I am unable to fit torpedo launchers and a medium afterburner. That's just lovely, so I have to swap back to the rapid missiles. So that's what I'm saying. I have weird issues with power grid, even though it used to work back a couple months ago when I flew this ship. It used to work, now it just doesn't. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah. If I mess up something with my skills, I'll fix it. But I don't think I messed anything up. Yeah, and well, let's take this thing for a little ride and let's see how the Chameleon will work. Although I kind of already know how the Chameleon will work. With a high level bombard, actually I don't know if I did attempt to fly the ship with a high level bombard. I think I used the ship before having the bombard with the gold implant. So
we're under attack.
I think, you know what, this thing can have some pretty scary DPS. This is one of the things that I like about the Chameleon. It can have some good DPS. I don't have an nanocore for it. Honestly, I don't have an nanocore on any of my special cruisers. I fly them without nanocores. I kind of miss the battle mode on the Celos. That thing was wild. I would say that the Celos felt like the best option for me before they have separated the special module from the ship, because you could have the battle mode active while cloaked, and it didn't really have much of a penalty. The solar capacity recharge wasn't really a big deal, because that thing was able to deliver like 7, 8, 9,000 DPS, and I enjoyed it a lot. Now with the rapid firing module, I feel like the cells definitely lost a lot of the DPS that it used to have. I'm fine with that. I use the cells with the artillery cannons nowadays. In some cases I use the auto cannons, depending on the target, obviously, but I usually just fly the artillery long range cells because that's already more than enough DPS as it is. But I really miss that thing, and I miss the battle modes. I kind of enjoyed these ships having special unique modules, but at the same time I also understand the reason why they have been separated. And again, the sniper module, it's kind of useless for a cruiser, honestly. I don't know why that module is made in such a way. Imagine if I ever encounter a Chameleon that uses a sniper module, that Chameleon is going to get roasted in a couple seconds. because a slow cruiser is a dead cruiser, and maybe in some cases it can be useful, but I just don't see that being the case. You pretty much it loses DPS. You get some alpha damage, but drones lose speed, the ship loses speed, loses tracking, the cycle time becomes longer, the DPS drops, but you get extra alpha damage. The trade-off doesn't feel worth the gains that you get from the module. So I think the vast majority of Chameleon pilots don't use that special module, and they just use that extra medium slot for something else, which is, I would say, the right thing to do, because I don't really see a purpose for this ship to use the sniping special module. Now we will see what other ships we get in the game down the road. You know that we will get new ships, definitely new ships are coming in. I don't know when. I mean, I don't want to say Titans because I talked about Titans 10 million times by now, but I'm primarily talking about the smaller ships. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the smaller little boats. And Triglavians, for example, young ships and stuff like that would be what I am interested in. Titans and stuff like that, you know, I will fly Titans. I don't hate them, okay. I will probably fly them on a test server to see how they work. I believe that could be pretty funny to fly them and just to use the doomsdays and just have fun with the game a little bit. But on the live server, I don't really think that I will use the Titans because they're too expensive, and my wallet said no. So yeah, I just don't have money for those things, for these things. For now, at least. Although we will see. I mean, again, I'm primarily flying smaller ships. I found joy in smaller ships, and I prefer smaller ships. But that's just me. We all have different ship preferences. Some players like larger ships, some like smaller ships. I like smaller ships. Now, I don't know since when I have this problem, and you will see what I'm talking about very soon here. You might be wondering, okay, where are you? Why aren't you playing this game as much as you used to? Well, I'm pretty much prevented from playing the game properly because of my connection to the game. The ping is off the charts, and you know, playing EVE with terrible ping is just a recipe for disaster. And besides, the ping is just one part of the problem. Other part of the problem, the connection. I don't know what's up. This has been ongoing for I don't know how long. It's getting worse and worse though. That's what I noticed, and that's a little bit worrying because recently I was playing and I undock, I scan, and I'm unable to dock. Basically, the ship refuses to dock because of the connection just cuts. It happens awfully often. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's just me, if it's just my region acting up to the server, or the connection to the server here acting up. I don't know. But I almost lost this thing. I think in this video pretty much I almost lost it when the connection just cut. So that's a thing that happens out of the blue more and more often. So pretty much I want to play, but imagine you engage a target and then the connection just cuts and you are unable to come back, and that's pretty much what's the case in my case here. I am unable to come back pretty much for 5-10 minutes. I'm unable to reconnect to the game. So yeah, that's a huge problem. Not really sure if it's up to the game or if it's up to my connection. I think it's up to my personal connection here. I think my connection is just acting up for whatever reason. and I think I didn't even finish this mission because I just seen the connection being terrible, and I just want to dock. I just want to dock, not to lose this thing, because it's not stabbed, and my ship definitely will not warp off if I don't warp it off myself. But yeah, that's the thing. I play other games. I have high ping in other games as well, but the connection doesn't cut. Over here in this game the connection cuts, so that's a problem. That I would say that's quite a serious problem. That does have the potential to completely break the entire experience of the game, at least for me, because playing EVE with terrible internet is just not fun. Not fun at all, actually. But yeah, that's the problem that I have. And as I mentioned before, happens. It has started to happen a lot more often than usual. Like more and more. Like if I had to make a scale from 1 to 10, it started like 2, 3, you know, 4, and then it went all of a sudden to like 8 or 9, and it doesn't seem to want to. It doesn't seem to want to stop, which is not good. And yep, there it is. As you can see, the game, in my case, completely broke. So yeah, this is pretty much my experience with this game for the last couple months, and just wanted to let you know why I'm not as active as I should be active. Even though I am active, I'm playing, but the moment the connection just does this, I go out. I log out pretty much, because I'm unable to do anything, like literally unable to do anything. Reconnecting, I mean, already connected to the Wi-Fi, and it's still not getting me back in the game. So yeah, but we're nearing the end of the video. Tell me what you think about the Chameleon. I will try to fly this thing a lot more often, given the chance, of course, and given the moment. I want to fly the Chameleon a lot more often, and maybe I might get an Ewar for it or something like that. I don't know. But
Autopilot engaged.
But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me see. Yeah, this thing is alive. Good thing is I clicked autopilot, and
Warp drive
yeah,
active.
let's just, yeah, I'm out. This is not gonna end well if I keep flying the ship in this mission. So yeah, I'll just dock this thing, and with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.
Warp drive active.